Good morning. It is the 21st of April 2021. This is Dr. Deepak Atrajan, Senior Interventional Cardiologist from Delhi NCR. About a year ago, a senior journalist had asked me what would happen if the second wave were to come. My answer was very precise. I had said then that we would be prepared. So therefore, the response would be much better than the initial wave. I, alas, was way off the mark, because now I realize that there has been a systemic failure. There has been a gross incompetence show across the board in this country. We have no oxygen supply, we have no beds, we have no hospitals, we have no vaccines, and we have no medicines. The medicines are being sold in black. This morning at 5:30 in the morning, a person called me up seeking a bed. At 7 o'clock, another gentleman called me up requiring a bed for his elder brother. So the situation is close to dire in the city. And the reason is not difficult to explain. I have been talking about this in my previous segments. In fact, since October, I had been warning in video after video of mine that if we lower our guard, if we do not take adequate precautions, then the virus will take over. Now you must understand, the virus revels, it delights in crowds. It is most happy when it confronts a crowd, and that is the reason why I think this virus must be considering India as God's own country. We have crowds all the time. We have fairs, we have melas. We had a Diwali mela, a Dashera mela, we had a Holi mela, we've had political rally melas, we have the Kumbh mela, we have marriage melas, we have even regular melas, we have collections in funerals. We still go to temples of worship. There is absolutely no distancing employed in these temples of worship. I watched a video yesterday where food was being prepared in a huge temple in the city. Nobody was wearing a mask. So it is not surprising that we have this situation. The only silver lining is, and this also I've been explaining to you, that the case fatality rate is less than 1%. In fact, it is about 0.83 or 0.85%. And the infection fatality rate, despite the fact that we have had more than 1,700 deaths 2 days back, the infection fatality rate is still less than 0.09%, which means that even though the absolute number of deaths have risen, the proportion of death is still the same as was seen last year. But the point remains that in order to handle this virus, it is about time we used our wits. It is about time we used some basic common sense and intelligence. And I have been harping on this repeatedly in my previous segments, that doing a lockdown for the weekend will serve no purpose, because the virus will just roll back on a Monday. If you have a lockdown for a week, then the virus emerges again after that 1 week. If you keep a lockdown for a month, let's say for the month of May, the virus will come back in June. If you have a lockdown for May or June, or May and June, the virus will be there again waiting for us in July. So what I'm driving at is that you cannot exterminate the virus. No one in this world can eradicate this virus. You cannot nuke this virus. You cannot bomb this virus. That is out of the question. The virus is going to hang around maybe for years. So our approach has to be different. Our approach has to be a multi-pronged program, and this would be largely vaccination, as has been done in Israel. The latest data is extremely good. This has been published in the NEJM, and this has 12 lakh people, 6 lakh were vaccinated by the Pfizer vaccine, that is the messenger RNA vaccine, and 6 lakh people served as controls. The efficacy was that symptomatic infection was reduced by 94%. Asymptomatic infection was reduced by 92%, severe infection was reduced by 92%, and hospitalization was reduced by 87%. So the numbers are stunning. Now we have another report which has been published today in the Times of Israel, and this is also linked to a paper which says that once more than 50% of people above the age of 60 years in Israel were vaccinated, then there was a dramatic decline in deaths and in cases and in hospital admissions. So we have to take a leaf from the Israeli program. We have to vaccinate not everyone. I am again repeating, please do not have this grand program of vaccinating everyone as is being suggested, by the opposition political parties. The plan should be to vaccinate as many people as possible above the age of 50 years and also, if possible, above the age of 40 years. Once we have achieved that magical number of 50% vaccinated, then there is bound to be a dramatic decline in cases. Apart from vaccination, what else can be done? As I have said, the vaccine cannot be waved away by a magic wand. The vaccine is going to hang around. So we have to use our brains. The other thing is that we have to alter our lifestyle. For some months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years, we have to tell ourselves that the gods will not be displeased if we visit temples in crowds. The gods will certainly not be displeased. In fact, they would be very, very happy because the gods themselves have sent this virus into this planet and has armed us with a cerebral cortex, with a prefrontal lobe that allows us to think for ourselves. So therefore, crowds are a big no-no. We have to follow the Japanese program, which is avoiding the 3 C's. The 3 C's meaning we avoid crowds, we avoid closed spaces, and we avoid contacts. Once we learn to do that, then we can negotiate with this virus. That is the time, or that is the point when we can imagine that we can tackle the virus. Now, during this period where we start the vaccination program once again, because that has been suspended because of the lockdown, if you maintain the lockdowns, then you cannot roll out the vaccines. That becomes a near impossibility. And also it must be kept in mind that by now we have enough data. We have data, in fact, published a few weeks back from Stanford, which has told us that whether we do a lockdown or we do a targeted lockdown, there is no difference in the number of cases. They have taken 10 countries, which include South Korea, Sweden, England, Germany, Italy, France, the United States of America, and have shown that France, which had extreme lockdowns as compared to South Korea or Sweden, which had targeted lockdowns, or in fact very, very fragile lockdowns, there was in fact more cases in France as compared to South Korea and Sweden. So lockdowns are not an answer. We already know the collateral damage, and the most important thing here is that we must bear in mind the dent or the damage we will be doing to our children. An entire generation of children are going to be damaged quite severely, quite substantially at the rate we are doing. It is our responsibility to conduct ourselves so that we protect our children and their future. These things are quite obvious. I've already harped on these. I've already dilated on this issue of children and schools, but we need to ponder on this very, very, very carefully. Reflection, serious reflection is required. And for once, we have to rely upon good science. I would urge you again and again to look up data, on Google, to look up data in the medical journals, and to look up data in what is called the med archives. Now, till we get the vaccination program running, right, what do we do? Now, I had been skeptical about this medicine for many months. In fact, I had proscribed this medicine, but in the recent past, in the recent couple of months, I have gone through the literature, I have gone through the data very, very carefully, and now I have come around, and I believe sincerely that this medicine will do the trick, at least in our country. till a substantial number of people are vaccinated. This is called Ivermectin. Let me tell you about the medicine. This medicine was first discovered in 1975 by two scientists, a Japanese called Omura and an American called William Campbell. Now, the two of them found that in a bacteria which was called Streptomyces ivermectinis, and this had a compound, a molecule, which they named ivermectin, which worked against roundworms. So by 1981, this ingredient had been commercialized by the company called Merck, and this was being used to combat roundworms, and it was very successful in combating river blindness and also filariasis. It is also used for lice and scabies. The important thing here is that in 2015, the Nobel Prize for Physiology was won by these two scientists, that is Omura, the Japanese, and William Campbell, the American, for the discovery of ivermectin. So the drug has been used in the last 40 years, definitely in the last 30 years, to the tune of 3.5 billion or 4 billion doses. It is listed in the essential drugs of the WHO list, and there have been no serious side effects. Of these billions of doses that have been used with ivermectin, the side effects are negligible and mortality is just microscopic. You see, about 35 or 40 people have died in 30 to 40 years by using ivermectin, as opposed to 400 or more deaths with remdesivir in the last 1 year alone. So let's come back to ivermectin. Ivermectin is freely available in India. Just about every chemist has it stocked in the shops, and the dose which is being recommended, I will make it simple for you, is a 12 milligram tablet. The ease of use is also very important. It can be used orally. In case someone is infected, then after consulting your doctor, that is very important, because I'm not going to prescribe this medicine. You have to consult your own doctor. You have to go to a hospital and talk to your treating physician that can ivermectin be used. The dosage is very simple, 3 to 4 tablets of 12 milligrams used once a day. That means you use 3 tablets over 3 days, 1 tablet on the first day, second tablet on the second day, third tablet on the third day, and if need be, 2 more tablets on the 4th or 5th days. The side effects would be just about nothing, and there is a remarkable recovery. Let me give you the data now. There have been about 27 randomized trials, 27 controlled trials, which have shown a reduction of mortality by 65%. Another meta-analysis of 18 randomized trials, 18 controlled trials, has shown a reduction in mortality of 75%. Now, these are staggering numbers. These are numbers which reflect that the drug is very effective. And I would urge you to go on to the website of this organization called the Frontline COVID Critical Care Alliance, that is the FLCCC Alliance, which is based in the US, but it has a lot of data or trials which have been done with ivermectin across the world. We also have a prophylactic trial which has been published in the PLOS 2 or 3 months back from the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, Bhubaneswar, which was a controlled trial which has shown that as a prophylactic, when this medicine was used on the first day as a single tablet and on the third day as the second tablet, over a month, the reduction in infection rate was as high as 73%. That is, 73% of health workers there was a reduction of 73% in health workers who took this tablet as a prophylactic. And apart from this, there are about another 18 or 19 controlled trials which have shown a significant reduction in infection. That means this drug can be used as a prophylactic measure. And in fact, there are 7 controlled trials, of which 6 are prospective trials, which have shown a reduction in infection as high as 91%. So therefore, this is almost equal to the efficacy of the messenger RNA vaccines in terms of preventing infection. So what would be my approach in the current pandemic, in the current surge? It would be to number one, to carry on with the vaccination program. Whatever vaccine we have to use it, whether it is the ChAdOx vaccine, that is the Oxford vaccine, the chimpanzee Oxford 1 vaccine, or whether it is the killed vaccine made by our own company in Hyderabad. I understand that another vaccine will soon be available, that's the Russian Sputnik V vaccine. So these three vaccines have to be used in as many people as possible, especially people above the age of 45 or 50 years, because as I've mentioned even in this segment, that as the Israelis have pointed out, if we are able to vaccinate 50% of this population group, then there would be a striking reduction in cases and admissions to hospitals. Now, apart from that, what are the medicines that actually work in this disease? Now, two medicines are definitely working, but that is in very serious patients who are hospitalized. One is dexamethasone. The second one is tocilizumab, and both have been shown in large randomized trials in the recovery trials to be effective in bringing down mortality significantly. Dexamethasone reduces mortality by almost 12 absolute percent, and above that, another 8% reduction in mortality is achieved by using tocilizumab. It's a different point whether the government has tocilizumab available or not. The other medicine which is effective is what I've mentioned to you. If a patient is infected, is PCR positive, and is in his home, that means he has mild infection, then ivermectin should be used in such people. Apart from that, you have budesonide. Budesonide is a steroid. You have inhalers, which are again freely available. We have a large trial called the Principal trial that used this medicine in a randomized manner in 1,700 patients and found that there was a significant reduction in symptom time duration by almost 3 days. So budesonide is again freely available. It is an inhaler. It has to be used twice a day. Now, the third thing which is being talked about is remdesivir. Now, I must emphasize, and I cannot emphasize enough, that remdesivir is a very, very expensive drug which is being used, which is being sold in the black market. In fact, I think yesterday the Commissioner of FDA of Maharashtra has been sacked because of some controversies, and this was, I think, uncalled for, because remdesivir, ladies and gentlemen, does not reduce mortality. That is very, very important. At the most, remdesivir can reduce your recovery time from about 11 days from 15 days to 11 days, which was found in a randomized trial done by the company. Apart from that, there are 3 randomized trials, one done by the Chinese, which had about 250 patients. Then we had the Gilead trial, that is about 1,000 or 1,100 patients. And we had another trial which compared 5 days course with a 10 days course with standard therapy, which was published in the JAMA last year. And none of these trials have shown that there is a reduction in mortality. At the most, remdesivir can improve clinical outcomes to a small extent. So, as opposed to remdesivir, we have almost solid data with ivermectin showing us that there is a significant reduction of mortality ranging from 65 to 75%. Now, the WHO, you can check this on Google, WHO ivermectin, you will find that they have published a fortnight back, I think on the 31st of March this year, their impression about ivermectin. They discuss 7 randomized trials. They accept that there is a significant reduction of 81% in mortality with ivermectin. Yet the WHO says that this result, the quality of evidence is not good enough for them to recommend ivermectin. Now, I find this quite confusing. I find this very intriguing, in fact, that why has the WHO used only 7 trials, although they are randomized trials, and despite their own researchers finding that there is a reduction of 81%. They are saying that the evidence is not good enough. They point out that maybe the number of people involved were very few, or there was not enough blinding in these studies. So of course that is the approach of the WHO, which is in variance with most physicians across the world. Ivermectin is being used extensively in Latin America. It is being used extensively in Egypt, in Iraq, in Iran. It has been used in Eastern Europe, and the results are quite impressive and very, very supportive of the fact that this medicine works not only as a prophylactic, but it also significantly reduces hospital time, as also, and this is most important, it reduces deaths, it reduces mortality significantly. Now, how does ivermectin act? Ivermectin acts as an antiviral. It acts as an antiviral by blocking the polymerase enzyme, which is used by the virus in multiplying. It also dampens the immune response, so therefore it also is an anti-inflammatory. Hence, it can be used also in the later stages of the disease, but my own recommendation is to use it in the first 3-4 days. And my personal experience is very reassuring. Just about a week back, I have used it in 5 people. The age ranged from about 16 years to 78 years. The 78 years gentleman is a diabetic. He is a hypertensive, has normal coronary arteries, had the profound weakness in his body, was RT-PCR positive. He responded in 4 days with 4 tablets of ivermectin. His oxygen saturation improved from 93% to 96%. This gentleman's wife, who was 72 years, who also is a diabetic and a hypertensive, who was angiographed by me about 3 months back, and she was found to have normal coronaries, also had RT-PCR positive COVID-19. And she also was given 3 tablets of ivermectin, and they worked. Her oxygen saturation yesterday was 94%. And not only have they recovered very fast, they are also feeling quite strong right now. Apart from this, I have also used this in a colleague of mine who was 65 years, a physician, a general physician. Here it was used much later, on the 8th or 9th, or in fact the 10th day of after symptom onset, and this gentleman also recovered. So by and large, I am saying not by and large, every patient in whom I have used this medicine, that almost about 25 by now, the medicine has worked, right? And all these people were RT-PCR positive, and that is the reason why ivermectin was given. So, to cut a long story short, it is imperative that the powers that be in this country now go on full alert. There is no point applauding rallies. There is no point tweeting about the numbers of people who are collecting in a certain person's political rally. That is, that is sheer foolishness, if not rank negligence, especially if the tweet is coming from a medical doctor. The time now is to once again emphasize again and again and again and again to the average Indian that it is time he starts or she starts maintaining some distance from the other chap, and that they wear masks if they go to a crowded place, or whether if they work in a hospital, right? And that they maintain personal hygiene. This is what is going to get them through this crisis, not lockdowns and not vaccines, because the vaccines have yet not come. Apart from this, of course, the government's duty is to ensure that as many people as possible are vaccinated. They make the purchase orders, they make the vaccines available to the general public, and they also make it available to the poor via government hospitals and as also private hospitals where the vaccine is sold in a subsidized manner. And I would urge the regulating authorities in this country to make serious note, to have a serious discussion on the probable efficacy of ivermectin in this pandemic. The drug is available in our country. It is cheap. 1 tablet just costs about 25 rupees. It is being sold in South Africa in black for a single tablet at rupees 2,500. The medicine is available in India. It is cheap. it is to be used orally, right? And it is to be given just for 3 or 4 or 5 tablets at the most. The results are very, very good. Yes, every person will not be cured by this medicine, but then every person is not cured by any medicine on the planet. With that, I will stop now. Thank you very much.